Adelaide in South Australia. With a population of slightly more than 1 million, the city rises from the middle of a tree-covered plain between rolling hills to the east and beaches to the west. So at first glance, it's impossible to associate this city with the term comfort women. But that's only until you hear the extraordinary story of this brave woman.
Hello, Miss Yan. It's so nice to meet you. So nice to meet you. Yes, wow.
This 9-year-old grandma's home in the outskirts of Adelaide boasts a mystifying blend of the West and the Orient. At her beautiful home, we were able to meet Jan Rufferhern and her daughter Eileen. Jan Rufferhern was born in the former Dutch East Indies, now called Indonesia, in 1923. She had a childhood that any other would be envious of, with a family with a lot of love and affection. Her life was so pleasant until the Japanese invasion of Java.
On the 26th of February 1944, some high Japanese officers came to our camp, and we were ushered into this bus, clinging on to our little belongings, a little bag, And then they drove into the city of Semarang, and in front of one of those large houses, the bus stopped, and we were told to get out, and this is where, this house where it all started. We immediately sensed this house is to be feared.
Jan Rufferhern is one of a few dozen of Dutch women who suffered at the hands of the Japanese military as a World War II comfort woman or sexual slave.
You are here for the sexual pleasure of the Japanese officers, for the Japanese military. And we were in a brothel. The house started to slowly fill up with Japanese. As soon as it got dark, they all came in, laughing, joking. One by one, the girls were chosen and dragged into a bedroom. And I remember there was a Japanese standing there, and I could see his boots, from under the table. I can still see those boots. I can still see them. I can still see this man's face. I'll never forget it.
And for the next 50 years, she remained silent. But in 1992, at a war crimes public hearing in Tokyo, she spoke out for the first time ever.
Even after almost 50 years, I still experience this feeling of total fear going through my body and through all my limbs, burning me up.
Tina Dokopol was one of the 2 chief prosecutors at the Women's International War Crimes Tribunal in Tokyo in 2000.
It was a major women's tribunal held in Tokyo in 2000 that looked at the issue, and everybody keeps coming to the same conclusion that there were massive violations of international human rights norms, and certainly those acts, as I said before, would have amounted to war crimes and crimes against humanity.
And in February 2007, along with 2 Korean Halmonis, Lee Yong-soo and Kim Gun-ja, Jan testified before the U.S. Congress. 6 years later, now at 90 years of age, Jan doesn't know how much longer she can go on.
And I don't know how much longer that's going on, because I'm just had my 90th birthday. And I've been doing that for so long, and nothing has really changed, hasn't come any nearer.
Drug taking in sport, in our major codes. Quite remarkable.
We haven't seen for a very long time. It is
very difficult.
Matthew Abraham, radio host of a morning news show on Australian Broadcasting Corporation and a journalist of 40 years, was among the first reporters to find out about Jan Rufferhern's tragic past. ABC first covered Jan's story in the 1990s and a few more over the course of the years, all broadcast on ABC National.
This Adelaide story that Sydney picked up.
I think there's a great drive for justice for all the women who are in her situation and the terrible things that happened to them. That's what I think is a big motivation for Jan, that she wants their story to be told. It seems to me that this should be an issue for the international community to address, and in terms of apology and awareness.
Michael Sexton, another journalist on ABC's news team, remembers covering this story right after she had begun speaking out about her experience as a comfort woman during World War II. His piece on Jan changed how the Australian public viewed the issue.
In this country, I guess the perception was that the comfort women were from Asia. And then when we discovered there were Australian women, European women who were also part of it, then that became, in a sense, a local story for us.
He says as the world becomes more global and relations between countries more vital, it's critical that the international community in Japan make efforts to resolve historical issues without which no future can be created.
We didn't know about this story for decades and decades. And you know, they need to look at it now. The push with Jan and some others is to try and get acknowledgement, understanding and some sort of compensation, I suspect, while they're still alive.
She's running out of time. She has travelled. She has had to. It is stressful getting up in front of international tribunals. It's stressful telling a story. It's stressful telling a story like this. I think it has been very demanding on Jan.
We were all given different names, and mine was the name of a flower. And they were pinned on our door in Japanese, you know. I hated flowers, and I always said to my daughters, you know, when it was my birthday or wedding anniversary, whatever you do, don't give me flowers. I don't want flowers because of what they represented to me.
But ever since she came out with her story and began to speak of peace and reconciliation, the meaning of flowers changed for her.
I came so close to the Korean comfort women during that terrible part of my life. They're often in my thoughts and prayers. I'll never forget them. You can't forget people like that have been so important in your life. I want to heal, and the healing can only come if I can say, you know, that I can forgive. Then the healing will start. And this is a very hard thing for them to do.
Peace, forgiveness, and reconciliation. Religions of all faiths preach these messages, and they're what life teaches you as well. You find peace through forgiveness. But for the victims of sexual slavery by the Japanese military, a sincere apology is what they need in order to forgive. Time, however, is not on their side.
The Korean government at this stage may be in the best position of any government because the Korean Constitutional Court has said that the executive government of Korea must do more to facilitate obtaining redress for Korean nationals, that it is part of the government's obligation to do more than it has.
이러한 문제가 단순히 한국인에 대한 것만이 아니니까 전 세계적으로 어떤 네트워크라든지 그런 무대를 통해서 이러한 문제를 해결하도록 노력해야 되죠. 한국 정부가 조금 더 주체적으로 대응한다면 그런 것을 계기로 헌법 소원이라는 이런 것을 계기로 문제를 다시 한번 제기할 수 있다고 저는 생각해요.
With the female president in Korea, the more that they will be able to, assist or support or really bring justice for the harmony or for the lolas. If Korea would be able to get that justice, I mean, why wouldn't the lolas get that? I mean, I'm sure that the Korean people or the harmonists are doing this not only for them, but for the entire victims, for all the victims of the World War II. So we're very optimistic about this. We just as optimistic as the Korean people, I guess.
Back at the House of Sharing in Korea, Kim Gunja 할머니 also remembers Ms. Yan Rafahern. She says no words are necessary for them to feel each other's pain, the suffering, the agony.
다 같은 처지니까 말은 안 통하지만 마음은 다 그거야.
8 survivors of Japan's wartime sexual slavery live together in the House of Sharing, being the source of strength for one another, because they understand each other, because they were in it together. But time is taking its toll on these 할머니es.
김옥주, 또 무영이가 뭐 중국산 할머니 하나, 또 잠깐 와서 한나절 살고 죽은 여자가 있어. 그래서 말하자면 8명이 죽었다. 안 보고 싶다.
왜?
성질이 다 달랐어. 이쁘지도 않은 것들이.
For the 88-year-old 할머니 knows it will not be long until she meets them again. Over the years, many in the international community have come to the same conclusion over and over again. What was done to these women by the Japanese military during World War II amounts to grave violation of human rights and is a crime against humanity. It's just the Japanese government that has steadfastly refused to come face to face with its war crimes. But throughout our coverage, we came across many expert views that the international community's continuous efforts to document and address this issue is a form of justice itself. So the global community's callings for the human rights of these women is important in its own right. Perhaps one day, the government of Japan would be able to see what we see in the eyes of these victims.